Hey everyone, Stroglines here in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, and Jackie here in Denmark.
Yeah, I don't give Jackie. I need to be like, yeah, Jackie. Today we're going to talk about this AutoHotkey short call. What are we short talk? Short talk.
Short talk. Yeah.
We do them once a week, and I can't remember what they're called. But we're going to feature on talking about like saving your settings or your process of where you are, how, especially if you're going to be working on something later. Like the script's not going to stay in memory. Basically, you want to be able to keep track of either where you were, what the configuration's been done, anything like that.
Yeah, it could probably even be a log or it's kind of similar, right?
It's similar. I think of a log. It's a good point because logs are related, right? In the sense of, but to me, that's more about the things that have happened while I was running it.
Yeah.
But you might have multiple rows, like that says where something is, right? Because it got moved and it got moved and it got moved, and that would be multiple times in that file. Whereas with what I'm thinking of, it doesn't mean that it's not still the same thing. It's more about, hey, where was this window at last, right? It's a one update, but doing a log is you do the file. I usually use a file append for writing a log file.
Yeah, and that's probably also kind of the simplest, right? Unless you have some kind of specific need, you might do it in a database where you would log stuff.
Yeah.
But if it's something running locally and you only need to access it locally, then file append. That's what I'd use as well.
So. Yeah, we were chatting a bit here. So there's the .ini .ini like read and write file stuff, and I guess there's an .ini delete as well, right? Something like that. But which is super easy to use. Takes a little getting used to.
Yeah, but the built-in commands makes it really, really accessible to everyone.
That's a great point. Yeah. Right. Yeah, you don't have to have a separate function or something else. It's just built into AutoHotkey.
And that means that it's also documented in AutoHotkey terms, right? So if you've gotten used to reading AutoHotkey's documentation, then you have a good chance of understanding how the any read and write functions actually work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then
good way.
Yeah, so let's actually switch over to the one that you, if you did use file append, which you could, right? It would just be a little trickier because you'd have to, when you go to read it in, you'd have to really take care of all the processing of the file, searching for certain text and pulling back like a key value pair, right? And creating it and parsing it and taking care of it, which you can definitely do, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
No, you'll probably end up having to use something more advanced like the file object to actually use something like that, right? If you wanted to change the values at a later time, because with file append,
right.
You don't really have a tool to actually remove what was already there.
Well, what I was thinking was, depending on how simple what you're doing, and this is part of what we should have a little side note here of like, what is the thought process of why you pick one over the other, right? And one of the things I would say is, if you only have 3 settings, maybe what you do with the file append thing is you read in the file and then you delete it, and then you work on it, and then when you're ready, you rewrite it when you're done, and that way it's completely clean.
Yeah, that would be the simple way of doing it. That's correct. Just reading it in, removing it, and then creating it anew. And again, if it's not something that you do often, or if it's not something that you want people to access, or if it's just for yourself, just read it in, delete it, rewrite it when you're done.
So, which is actually a great step into the other one, which was the alternate data stream. Is that what it was called?
Yeah, I think that was what it was called, right?
So, yeah, we worked on this several years ago, just Jackie and I, in a side project. I would say it's not big enough for like a webinar. Otherwise, I think it'd be a fun webinar. But basically, it's like kind of hidden file attributes. So you can store values in your file, but even though it's like just a regular file, when someone opens a file, the text isn't in the file. I don't know how to explain it any better than that.
Yeah, I don't think I have better words for it either. It is just it is file attributes or the file stream, but yeah, I don't have a good way of saying it either. So yeah, it's a way to append data to a file, but without actually writing it within the file. It's just, I don't know.
Let's
Is
call
it
them
a feature
headers,
of
for lack of a
Windows?
better term.
Yeah. That's probably your footers or whatever. I don't know if they're actually before or after.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah.
Some sort of metadata, right? It's not actually in the file, which was an interesting, way to do it.
Yeah, because it just followed the file. Right?
That's right.
You didn't actually need to create another file.
Mm-hmm.
So it made sense for people doing compilation, right? Where you could put it on an exit file. But yeah, it was a bit of work compared to other methods. I'd say doing it to a separate file is simpler and more easily relatable.
Absolutely.
Where using the data stream is just in an attempt to, we had it in an attempt to not per se hide the data, but to keep the data out of sight still. So it's kind of, we didn't believe that it was hidden or secure or anything like that, but it was put in a place where you would have to go specifically looking for it to find it.
I didn't test this, but it would be a fun test, is to use a tool like grepwin to search the file for that text and see, if it finds it. Because I kind of think it might still find it, even though it's not in the file, but it'd be a fun test.
Yeah, I don't know the inner workings of that either. Where is the data actually?
Yeah.
Is it something that Windows has, or is it something that the file has, or is it the file system that has these attributes? I don't know. Yeah.
The next one, which I was thinking of, was which is kind of similar. In that with AutoHotkey, it's super easy to write things to the registry, and write and read from the registry and delete and update. And that's it's kind of a cool way. It of course is going to be per computer, right? So it doesn't go with the file if you transfer it to someone else. And it's sort of hidden.
Yeah, and a lot of people probably wouldn't go there. You need to be PC literate somehow to actually take the chance of looking in the registry for stuff. That's correct. And if you're, I don't know what Microsoft originally thought, or whoever designed the registry first, but yeah, the general idea is to have program settings there.
Right.
Yeah. Instead of in a file.
Right.
So.
If I remember right, it was something to do because they used to have it like in the INI files and stuff in the given folder. But then when multiple programs would rely on the same, and maybe DLL files as well, but they would rely on similar things, they had multiple copies of the thing, and that was being problematic of when to delete that file if you uninstall a program and it uninstall it when it should uninstall it, something like that.
Yeah, and there's others that don't want programs to write to the registry because then it's not a portable thing.
Right.
Yeah, but still, it kind of makes a lot of sense to actually have the registry and put stuff there, right?
It does. I mean, I'd rather have them local because because I think Macs do that, don't they? And Windows used to, but having it just all together, and if I want to get rid of it, I get rid of it, and it's gone from my computer. And if I, want to leave it there or move it to another computer, I just transfer it. I like that. But, Yeah, there's some other benefits to having them in the registry. I'll agree.
Yeah, if I just opened the Red Edit here, right, and looked at TeamViewer just to select something, and it has some display icon, display name, display version, help link, stuff like that. No repair, uninstall string, version major, version minor. So it is kind of like what is currently installed on this machine. Well, where it is actually storing stuff about itself, but maybe also stuff that other programs might be interested in knowing. So that's probably where it makes most sense that you'd put stuff like that in the registry, because again, this was under uninstall. I found that one under Microsoft and then under uninstall. So it's probably a way for Windows to know how to uninstall the current version of whatever. So that's why you have stuff like display icon and stuff like that. Where are those at? To me, it makes some sense, at least.
Oh yeah,
but
there's some good reasons.
Yeah, you could select any kind of other thing. Internet Explorer is here on the Windows. This is not under the uninstall. This is just directly under Microsoft. There's an Internet Explorer one, and it has the build version. There's something called MK enabled, some update version, current version, W2K version. So yeah, again, just versioning stuff and integrated browser version. So yeah, again, they're actually storing stuff about the program there,
which is one of the things when we talk about, and this is related, right, with the whole, if you have a program you're trying to, let's say, copyright, for lack of a better term, protect, sell, that you want to have people have to have a license, and that they have a trial period for 30 days and they can't use it, that is a great place to store some of that information, because the average person is not going to go digging through their registry. And you can configure something there saying this program was installed in 2017 and they didn't pay for it, and it's past the 30-day window, and you can't have a new version running again, right?
Yeah, and again, I think the registry has been used for quite a lot of things, but I at least know myself that other programs actually store quite usable things there, whatever it might be. But one of the things that I often find is I know from system to system where a program stores its data in the registry. So it can always go to that specific place in the registry and look for that specific program's entry. And then by looking at main file path, I can actually get where the program was installed. Instead of searching the entire machine for a specific program, I can look at that one point in the registry, because on every machine, the registry entry will be at the same place. So it's a great way to kind of share globally, or maybe not. I don't know if globally was the correct word, but that was at least what I thought.
Well, I'm just, not to get too far off topic, but I have a question on that, because really, I mean, as long as you know the bitness of the version, right? Because otherwise you have to check two places, don't you?
Yeah. That's again, that's one of the things that I've often have issues with, is there is a 32-bit version of the register and a 64-bit version of the register, and that can actually still tumble me up, at least. When going looking for one and not finding it, and actually having to look in the other. So yeah.
All right, let's move out of the registry. The next one is, and I'm gonna keep this in order, and I should have thought it through a little bit before, but to me we kind of followed it. Although INIs I would have moved down a little further, the amount of data that you're going to be storing, right? And INI files, I've seen people use them storing a lot of data, so I would put them more in the middle. The registry and the the alternate data streams, I would put those on the far left of just small amounts of data, like the things I'm going to be stuffing there.
Mm-hmm.
But the next one I was thinking is, like Maestri has an XML class. I mean, whether you use his class or not, right? XML is a great way that you can have store data and save it as a file. And then it has a hierarchy too. It's one of the best things about it, that you can parse it and go grab exactly what you want and update it. And you can store a lot of data there.
Yeah. I'd say XML is a great way of doing it. And with a class, a pre-built class, you can get to using it quite easily.
Yeah.
You of course need to learn the class, but you would probably need to learn XML first, and then the class should. Yeah, exactly right. And then the class will mostly take care of the rest for you, and that's the easy part with that. And I love looking at XML data because the way that, let's say, a browser or whatever Windows thing you use to view it, the prettiness of the data might be one way of putting it. It is just makes a lot of sense. And I'd say JSON as an example, it just doesn't have the same feel to it.
Well, it's because it doesn't have the structure, right? Not like XML does.
No, exactly. It's too flat, or whatever you would say, where XML might be more bulky. You need to tell it a bit more, but you also get so much more structure from doing that. So yeah, I love finding out that the data is in XML, because then it's as easy to work with as Excel or a web page or whatever. Yeah, it's lovely to have structured data in that way, where JSON is just a glorified CSV file, right? Almost, but yeah.
Almost. But you can parse it, and there's, for both of them, there are good classes in AutoHotkey to parse either JSON data or XML and dump it all into an AutoHotkey object. And it's awesome because I don't have to go learn those, right? The JSON or XML. I just push that data into an AutoHotkey object, which I'm decently familiar with, and can access things that way. And it's so much easier.
Yeah, I'd say it would be interesting to actually know what was seeing benchmarks on some of all these storing methods, because XML and JSON and any for that matter kind of seems like just normal text file operations. So they probably wouldn't be that much. There's probably not much difference in speed.
I don't think so. And the only thing I would hypothesize is if you have a lot of data and you know exactly what piece you're wanting to get, XML, because of the structure, could possibly be quicker, right? Because it can jump to places unlike in the other things. Although maybe the INI files, I haven't looked into how they actually read a file, and if it's a big file, if it uses those keys, to very quickly jump through a big file. I haven't done that.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing, right? Because it's mostly the same, both of them do, but yeah, you can't have the depth in an INI file that you can have in a JSON file, where INI you're kind of locked to the sections and the keys and the values, right? That's it. Where with XML and JSON for that matter, but XML, where you can structure it and say, I have houses, they have streets, or whatever, they have numbers, and I can then alliterate over each house, where in the INI you would be at the top. You have a section perhaps and then you were at the max depth.
Yeah, let's say there's a house that people live in it, and then the people, each of them have phone devices, and then devices, they have somethings, and that's the structure, and you know exactly where to jump to. So the last one that at least I had on my list was dealing with databases, and especially in particular, what's the not NoSQL, what's it called? SQLite, SQLite 3, I think. So I've been using a lot with that with Macereth. He's been working on it. He used to do all XML, right? That's all he did. And then we had Jean Lalonde give us an intro to the database thing, and Macereth just, boy, he's gone to town on it. And now we're creating files with millions of records and searching them, and it's really fast. I mean, that one I'll say, if you have a lot of data and you're trying to keep track of a lot of stuff, it's very, very fast.
Yeah, and that's also what database is for, right? It is structuring large amounts of data where I'd say normal level of storage needs any, and then if your needs become extensive, then XML. But yeah, you really need to have a large amount of data to go all the way to a database. That's at least how I see it. Or you would need to read and write to it a lot, right? Yeah. So because again, speed. But yeah, where I'd say my guess is that an INI or and XML, both. I don't know what classes there are for XML, but at least with the INI file and the functions built into AutoHotkey, the file is opened, read, edited, and closed each time you do it. Unless Windows helps you in some way. I don't believe it does. So you of course have quite a lot of speed loss if you use those functionalities, right?
Macereth was doing some benchmarking, and I forget the tool he used, but it was crazy. It was showing all this actual, like, when your computer accessed the hard drive, and even with the database, it was actually accessing the hard drive like a lot more than you would have thought. It was very surprising. So it was pretty intensive still on the hard drive. Somehow it's still fast, really fast though.
Yeah, but I'd guess the people that actually make the software behind the databases, they don't do anything else than that. That's the data needs to be correct, needs to be refinable, and then it needs to be fast. Those are kind of the three main points, right? So yeah.
So the other thing, which I want to circle back with, because we brought it up earlier, with the SQL, with the database, at least with the SQLite thing, you need to have, I think it's the SQLite database DLL file, or at least it's some sort of an additional file, right?
Yeah.
With the XML and JSON stuff, you need at least some additional functions that aren't built into AutoHotkey. Not a big deal. But with the INI and the registry editing, those are built into AutoHotkey. So it is convenient. Of course, and again, this is one of those things, if you're designing it for yourself, who cares, right? It's on your computer. But when you're sharing it with other people, that can actually change things. And some people get hung up on, like, why do I have this other file? It's funny, but it can.
Yeah, and I'd say if you weren't inclined to actually use other people's code, I'd still say it was easier to do XML than JSON, because Windows still has all of the functionality written for you. So it's calm contra actually phrasing and parsing files and taking care of all of the JSON structuring. Whereas with the XML, Windows already knows how to handle it with use of the correct COM functions.
You just reminded me when you said that. There actually is a built-in database, the ADO something, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, you can do SQL queries, open text files, and do queries and read and write stuff. I've done it, and it's great because it's built into Windows, right? Actually, I haven't tried out Windows 10. I assume it's still there. But
it's probably still there because I believe that Excel and all those still have it as an add-in.
But it was a really cool, when I played with it years ago, it was really cool that, like, this is on everybody's computer, right? And so the technology is already there. It's one of the things I love about AutoHotkey, right, is there's so many things that are unlike Python that you got to go get every function in the world and library to work with something.
Yeah, I recently, that's actually after going through your course on Udemy. I was kind of looking into other courses just to see what was there, and was a free Python course, and I was like, do I want to know something Python? I was like, I dabbled in it way back, right? And one of the things that hit me was, if I wanted to compile my stuff, my script, into an exit that people could just click. And I found a beginner tutorial where the end of the 5 hours of free tutorial, there was 10 minutes about actually compiling it.
Yeah.
And then I went on to a web page that explained it step by step. And after reading those 20 pages of steps that you needed to do, I was like, okay, that's why I stayed with AutoHotkey. Truly, it was just, it's too much. It was, and of course, you can be very, very happy with Python, and it is perhaps more powerful, or at least more used, and it is less platform dependent.
Right.
But still, there was a bit too much that needed to happen for me to just make a small Python program and compile it into an exit. And to me, they should make that simpler.
I was laughing a lot because I was like, I need to go make a video on how to compile in AutoHotkey, and it'll be like a 4-second video, right? You're like, right click, say compile, you're done. I mean, it's so easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and from what I read, and I'm not saying it can't be done, but from what I read, it was for the most part actually doing the same thing as AutoHotkey. It was kind of packing all of the needed stuff into an exit, and normally compiling, and that's the issue. Right? Normally compiling is actually turning it into readable code, and it didn't seem like that was actually what Python did. So to me, in the end, it was like, is that much really needed to end up just packing the stuff together? But again, it might be better, but to me, it was a lot of work to just do that small thing.
It was a crazy amount of work. I agree. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's just, to me, if I wanted to do stuff and share whatever program I figured out I wanted to do in Python and share it with other people, it might make sense if the project was big enough, but I wouldn't do it with something small, like say 10 string hotkeys that will open 5 windows and do a specific action for you. I wouldn't be able to share that with others with using Python, because making the exit would be too hard. It would be much easier to just install Python on the machine. And
run it. Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's keep this somewhat short and wrap it up. And
fair enough.
I would think that was a good call.
Yeah, it was. Absolutely.
Right, see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.